everyone. Welcome back to another episode of A Girl and Her Dad. If you're enjoying the show or if you're brand new here, let's start this episode by downloading, subscribing, following us, dropping us a comment, leaving us a review. It helps more than you know, so do that on whatever platform you're listening on. I'm Jackie, a Gen Z host. I come in with the questions that a lot of people are thinking, but don't feel comfortable asking. Before I hand it over to my dad to introduce himself, Happy New Year.
I'm Jackie's dad, here to give the best answers I'm capable of giving. Happy New Year's.
All right. Today we have a really nice topic. It is Israel. This is a hot topic, and I think it's a hot topic for both sides. But what we're really going to be talking about is why the topic of Israel feels so emotionally charged and divisive that people are almost afraid to talk about it at all. So let's be honest for a second. Most people talking about Israel don't actually understand it. They just pick a side. Maybe some people understand it, but I know a lot of you people my age, you don't actually understand it. And you just pick the popular side. You're either aggressively pro-Israel or you are aggressively anti-Israel. Or you're someone like me who's like completely overwhelmed and confused on the topic. Like you can see both sides of the issue and you just don't know where you stand with it. But somehow Israel became the topic where curiosity is suspicious and nuance is unacceptable. And the thing I'm still trying to understand is it just feels completely dangerous. So we're not here to tell you what to think. We're just here to explain why this conversation feels so extreme, why it cuts across political lines, and why it's tearing people apart. And full disclosure, I'm not an expert on Israel. I'm the furthest person from it. For the past year and a half, though, really ever since October when...
October 7th, about 2.5 years now.
When our horrible president, Joe Biden, was in office, someone got some courage to do something. So since that time, Israel has been completely dominating social media. The news, there's protests, there's political arguments. It's even political arguments within parties. There's Democrats fighting Democrats over this. There's Republicans fighting Republicans over this all the time. But people have been canceled. Friendships have been blown up over it. College campuses feel like war zones. And honestly, it feels like people are even scared to even ask the questions out loud. But I think pretending to understand something you don't is worse than admitting you're confused and trying to learn. And I'll be honest, like I said, I'm not an expert on this. I don't have much an opinion. I see both sides, but I think I don't have much of an opinion on this because I'm honestly not educated on this. So I'm here to get educated on this today. You guys are here to get educated on this today. And if you're not here to get educated on this today, you're here to listen to a neutral point of view. Because I think you have a pretty neutral point of view, right?
Mine's bifurcated. My view towards the Jewish people is one thing, and my view towards the Israeli government is totally on a different track.
Yeah, and we'll get into that because I think that's where mine is too. And I think a lot of people
conflate them.
Yeah, they combine them, and I don't think they should. So we'll talk about why they should or why they shouldn't in a little bit. So anyways, Dad, just to start off, so my first question is going to be what confuses me the most on this topic, because in today's culture, everything's left versus right. And what's interesting about this polarizing topic is that it doesn't seem like it's even a left versus right issue. You have leftists who are pro-Israel, you have leftists who are anti-Israel. Same thing with conservatives. You have the pro and the anti. So why is it that Israel cuts across all political lines?
Well, the answer is basically due to the history of Israel. So there's 3,000 years of history.
Oh, God.
I know.
Don't bore us.
No, I'm going to try
Please.
to do this in about...
Do we have to know this to understand this?
I think you do. I mean,
okay.
I'm going to do 3,000 years in 3 minutes.
But before you explain that, so people just don't zone out,
Right.
Can you explain that the history is important to know because there's, and I'm just making this up on the spot, tell me if I'm right, but there's people within each party who have a different view of the history. So there's people in a party who have the same policy views for the most part,
Right.
but they have a different view or outlook on the history. So that's maybe why this divides them. Is that?
No, I mean, it's the history so complicated that whatever position they take, they can point to a point in history to say, this is why I have this position.
Oh,
It's a very unique history of many of all the countries. So
I don't.
I know
Can we hold on? And a lot of people my age will agree on this too. I think maybe it's just me, but why are we talking about the past? We're in the present. Let
because the
this.
question you asked, why is there a split amongst each party? They have pro because each party has groups that are attracted or see the narrative, one historical narrative that fits their view.
That's what I just said though. I said like, is it because like each party there's different people who see the different sides of history,
Yes, but you said different sides of history. So
or
what side of history? So that's why I
or
wanted.
they have a different outlook
I
on
think you're
the
fighting
history?
me on giving the history of Israel.
I
That's
hate
what I think.
history
I know.
lessons, you guys. Okay, let's go, Dad.
Okay,
Just
three thousand years in 3 minutes. How's that?
okay. Can you just make it as exciting
All
as
right, the
possible?
land of Israel, the physical land, starts as what? Where the Canaanites lived in the biblical times.
We're the Canaanites.
Okay, the Canaanites, don't worry about that. We're going to skip that, and we're going to just go right to God and Abraham. Makes the covenant with Abraham,
What year is this?
probably about 1,000 or 1,500 BC. I don't even know in the actual year. But
Okay.
anyways, the covenant is Abraham is to sacrifice his son. Think about this, sacrifice his son on an altar. Okay, so Abraham's willing to do that. God stops him, or has the angel stop
Why was
Abraham.
he going to sacrifice his son on an
A
altar?
loyalty test
To what?
to God. Okay,
And God stopped him?
God stopped him before he was ready to slaughter Isaac on the altar.
Oh
We go
gosh.
to a mass every week where somebody's son is slaughtered on the altar. So there's a lot of historical relevance there.
Okay.
Okay, so anyways,
What
God
do you
is,
mean by that?
well, we go to the mass every Sunday and there's a sacrifice on the altar. Christ the Son is sacrificed to the Father on the altar.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so anyways, it's going to be more than 3 minutes if we keep going this. But anyways, so anyway, Abraham now has a covenant with God. God sees his loyalty. Okay, God promises Abraham a nation that will endure and last, and will have many descendants, numerous as the stars. Well, that land is the Middle East. It's where Israel is now. Okay, so it's not really called Israel at that point, not until Abraham's grandson Jacob takes the name of Israel, gives that name to the country, which becomes the nation of Israel.
And this is all in the Bible, right?
This is all biblical, Old
Okay.
Testament. Okay, fast forward after the Babylonian exile and then the Assyrian captivity. Let's get right to the heart of it. Rome comes in. The Roman Empire basically administers the state of Israel. It's part of the empire now, although Israel still exists as Israel. There's a northern kingdom and southern kingdom, but that's part of the past history. We'll skip all that. Anyways, the key point is there's a Jewish uprising around 70, 60 or 70 AD after the death of Christ. A Jewish uprising against the Romans. Well, the Romans unleash holy hell on Israel and they destroy the second temple. There is a mass exodus of Jews from the country of Israel
Why?
because they're being abused by the Romans. They torn the temple down, which is basically their entire faith.
What made the Romans go in there?
Well, it was part of the empire at that point, but the Jews
So they just expanded their empire over into Israel?
they expanded it
Everywhere.
everywhere. Anyways,
Okay.
so there is a mass exodus of Jews, and this is the key point. And they go throughout the empire and beyond the empire, and they settle in what's called diasporas.
Okay.
Okay, basically, diaspora is a conclave of people who share a similar culture, religion, or identity.
Mm-hmm.
That happened in this country. Okay, Polish Americans, Irish Americans, but they assimilated into our country.
So you're saying the Jews never did that?
Jews never assimilated. Okay, they consider themselves a people amongst all peoples, so they stayed to themselves.
Okay.
But it's a two-track situation because not only did they stay to themselves by choice, they stayed by themselves because they had no choice.
Yeah.
Because now we're getting into early Christendom, and the Christians are not going to allow the Jews to hold certain industry positions. They're not going to serve as military leaders because you have to take a religious oath. You can't serve in guilds or crafts because those are religious groups that you also have to take an oath. They have prayer services, so the Jews can't participate in several industries. But there are a few that they can participate in.
Okay.
One such as money lending, okay?
The banks.
Yeah, that gets them into the banking industry.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple thousand years, when they come to America, when they emigrate to America to the East Coast in the early 20th century, a lot of anti-Semitism. They're not allowed into certain jobs, schools, etc. But there's
in America?
In America, but there's
Why?
not legally. They're just kind of shunned. But they're not. They're just the doors are closed in certain industries.
Okay.
But there is an industry that's starting in the early 20th
Why
century.
is that though? Like, why did
Just
like them?
that's more the anti-Semitism throughout the thousands of years of they killed Christ. They kept to themselves. They were blamed because they were the bankers. They were blamed for economic downturns. They were almost a scapegoat for a lot of the kings. When things money-wise went south, you could always point to the Jews. They were the bankers.
It's kind of funny though, sorry, off topic real quick though, like the anti-Semitism today from a lot of people is probably from, this is an anecdotal comment, but the anti-Semitism that you see today is probably from people who don't believe in Christ at all, but they
Right.
just hate Jews for no reason. It's not because the Jews killed Christ or
Right.
anything.
No, that's good. Probably a good point.
I just thought about that, but sorry.
So anyways, when they come to the United States, I mean, I know I'm leapfrogging by thousands of years to keep this short, but
Yes.
what end they're kept out of certain industries and schools, especially on the East Coast. But
Mhm.
there's an industry on the West Coast that's just a fledgling baby industry that they're allowed into because there's no big money in it. Any idea what that might be in California?
Hollywood.
Hollywood, the movie industry, the motion picture industry, and they basically have heavy influence to this day in Hollywood. Okay.
Okay.
They have heavy influence in banking. They have heavy influence in the medical field. Why? Because they weren't excluded for thousands of years in the medical field. Why? Because the early Jews spoke Hebrew, Greek, Latin, so they were very smart and educated, and the Greeks were good educators as far as medical goes. So
Okay.
this carries on. Basically, historically, there's two things. The Christians aren't letting them in these fields, so they're going into other fields and starting to dominate.
Okay.
Okay. So that's just the basic of, I mean, that's not even history. That's just a commentary on history.
Yeah.
Okay. But going back to your original question, which I already forgot, but
The original question is why does the topic of Israel seem to cut across political lines? It's not left versus right.
no,
It's
within the
within.
left and within the right,
Yes. Yeah.
you have the anti-pro-Israel within the left, anti-pro-Israel within the right.
Yeah.
So let me go to the left first.
So there's two different outlooks on it though. It's not like the left and the right team up together on this one, is what
Just
you're
a
saying.
historical point. Why are they called the left and the right? Any
Because the
idea?
right is right about everything. I don't know.
I like that. But no, actually, French Revolution, when they sat in the Commons, the Jacobins sat on the left and the more conservatives towards the throne that sat on the right. Okay, so maybe look at
Explain.
the left first. Okay,
Yeah.
why are they well, like the college students are
What are
very
the
anti-Israel.
yeah.
Well, think about the colleges. They tend to be liberal. The professors tend to be liberal. The professors tend to always emphasize the oppressor and the oppressed. Well, in the last 60 years, Israel is no longer considered the victim of the Holocaust. Israel, the nation state of Israel, is considered the oppressor against the Palestinians, against all the other Arab nations.
Okay.
Okay. And the Palestinians are considered the oppressed. And the liberal college professors, they've beaten down where the United States government is the oppressor and, the slaves were the oppressed or the Native Americans were the oppressed. They've used that one and beat that horse to death.
We're the illegal immigrants.
Or the illegal, that's a new one also. Yes, that's a
Yeah.
very good one. They're the oppressed. The government's the oppressors. Donald Trump is the oppressor
Yeah.
against these illegal. They love that story. It fits their narrative of a liberal viewpoint. So you can rile up these young peoples without telling them the history and say,
They make it emotional.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it fits the narrative the college professor wants to give. So yeah, Israel's the oppressor, Palestinians the oppressed. The liberals who are for Israel tend to be more secular Jews. Okay, they don't really care about. They're not religious Jews. Like the Hollywood,
like
the Hollywood
cultural
crowd.
Jews.
Yeah, the cultural Jews, exactly. They're supporters of the nation state of Israel with money and fundraisers, AIPAC, and it crosses party lines. So you have two sides within the left.
So is AIPAC, is that organization, does that have Democrats and Republicans?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So from the right is a more of a theological and a political difference there. So from the right, a lot of the Republicans that serve in Congress throughout the years, majority of them are Protestants, which is fine. Okay, but for the Protestants, it's a theological issue. They have a vested interest in their theology that the nation state of Israel must exist. Okay, it is very important. It's part of the parousia, which is the second coming of Christ in theological terms. That's the name for it. But in order for Christ to return,
Israel must exist.
Israel must exist physically. Okay. That's on the Protestant view. The Catholic view would say the physical Israel doesn't need to exist because the Catholic Church is the new Israel. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual Israel. But
let me ask you this: like, Israel is historic in terms of someone who's religious.
Is there
like anything historical?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
the Wailing Wall remains from the temple. I mean, the old churches.
So you wouldn't want to see Israel go away, would you?
No, I mean, but like I said, I have a different view of Israel than I do of the Jewish people. But anyway, so
Okay.
within the right, you have the evangelicals, but you also just have the politicians who are more concerned about foreign policy. They see Israel as an ally in the Middle East amongst all these Arab nations, Islamic nations, a democracy, supposedly Israel is. So that's one of the pro-Israel crowd within the right. But also
Mhm.
within the right, you have the America First crowd that says, hey, what are we doing? Why are we giving endless supply of money and weapons to a nation? It's coming from our treasury. They come in, they lobby our politicians, and sometimes they kind of dictate foreign policy. When we go to war, how we go to war, how often we go to war, who are we standing up to all the time on their behalf. So, and if those are the American First politicians, they're also consistent. They might feel the same way about other nations receiving aid. Um,
Yeah,
but if you notice, you'll see a lot of the supporters of Israel in the conservative movement are some of the same who do not want to give money to Ukraine because it's the theological thing of Israel must exist. And I agree.
yeah,
And even within that group, I agree. We shouldn't give money to Ukraine. I mean, what are we doing? But we
I
shouldn't give money to
agree.
anybody. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
So in each party, you got a pro and anti-Israel.
okay.
If you notice in the left, though, it's anti-Jewish. In the right, it's more anti-Israel.
I don't know about that though. Nick Fuentes, he's a Republican, so I guess he calls himself or something.
Good point, yeah.
He's anti-Jewish. I maybe before that's how it used to be, but I feel like it's been more intense lately. Everyone's
Yeah.
anti-Jewish if they're
And,
anti-Israel.
and it's very convoluted because for 2,000 years, Israel did not have a physical homeland. So when you talk about Jews, are you talking political? Are you talking theological? It's just woven into them
Yeah,
without a country.
yeah,
So you start parsing it into pieces. You see some group supports them for this reason, some oppose them for that reason.
yeah.
Very confusing. And in a few minutes, I mean, we would do
I
20
mean,
podcasts
yeah,
on
like
this.
that's
And
what
it's
I'm
just,
saying. Like, I feel like it's so confusing.
right.
That's why I have my opinions on it. But like, if there's a president that's running on the Republican side that's pro-Israel or anti-Israel, personally, it's not going to affect my vote.
No.
Yeah, like I don't want to give a million or billions of tax dollars to a country for no reason. Unfortunately, that's probably just not going to change since we've done it for so many years, right?
It's like almost ingrained into
I
our
feel like we
foreign
give so
policy.
many countries so much
Yeah.
money,
Which I
unfortunately.
don't know why anymore, but
Yeah, I'm totally against that. I guess I have that argument like for why we shouldn't give money to Ukraine. I don't want my tax dollars going there, but politics is so complex. You just have to figure out what matters to you most and what doesn't. And I guess if there's some things that's not going to change with the president and the money that we give to Israel is never going to change.
no, it won't as long as you
Unless
have
something drastic
right. I
happens.
mean, like I said, you
If
have
something drastic happens, it'll be a totally different country that we're in. So
right,
it's
but
my view.
as far as the money going there, it's going to keep going because there's more than just politics involved. There's theology involved, and when you get
But you
into
should
that,
keep that separate from the government, though.
it's always interwound how people think and how they believe. So it's always going to be there. You're not going to get away from the fact that the evangelicals believe that the nation state of Israel must exist. Very different than the Catholic approach. Although Catholics have
It's
their,
weird, isn't Tucker Carlson an evangelical and he's like so anti-Israel?
yeah, he's leaning on more of in a Catholic direction. I think he's Episcopalian, right? Which is very
Okay.
close to within the Protestant realm, close to
Yeah.
Catholicism.
Okay.
It's not all in one, all or nothing, but that's the general outlook.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, I do know Israel is one of the closest allies to the US. And I know that we send billions, not millions, billions of dollars to Israel every year. And from my understanding, part of this reasoning, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because that Israel is the only Jewish state in their region and they're surrounded by hostile countries. And then the US also views Israel as a strategic partner in the Middle East.
Yeah. I mean, they're the only Jewish state. They are the only Jewish state in there, and that's another angle with the Islamic
Such a
nations
complex
surrounding them.
topic.
And that becomes another wedge into the argument, and which then makes the Islamic nations lump us with Israel as the great Satan. So it just keeps winding down this, rabbit hole of every reason to either support or dislike or hate the Jews. But I still go back to you can separate Israel from the Jewish people just because, in World War II, Germany was invading Europe or conquering Europe. didn't mean the German people in the United States were somehow guilty of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But that being said, that's because there was a German homeland, and that was one political entity. The people
Yeah.
living here were German Americans. Okay, so there's a difference. Jews didn't ever have that luxury because there wasn't a homeland. They were just Jews living in these diasporas throughout the world.
Yeah. But why does the U.S. believe supporting Israel is in our national interest? Can you name a reasonable reason as to why you believe supporting Israel is in the U.S.'s best interest?
Personally, I can't name one good reason.
Really?
I mean, for a personal belief.
Okay. Yeah.
For humanitarian reasons, if you want to give them some small aid, like we do a lot of countries, yes.
Yeah. But not billions.
No, billions, no. We've given them enough. They've taken enough.
It's like they're
They've
like
dictated our foreign
it's like
policy
they're our
enough.
Ukraine.
Yeah, but it's a Ukraine that never goes away.
So the difference with Ukraine and Israel, Ukraine's like a left versus right thing. Israel is not.
Right. Well, you ever hear some of the conservative rhino, not America First politicians, Lindsey Graham?
Okay.
Well, we got to support Israel so they can fight them there, so we don't have to fight them here. Speaking of the Islamic terrorists or the Islamic nations, that argument's getting real old.
That's manipulative. Like
Exactly.
You're trying to gaslight us into thinking that
exactly
you're protecting us from war,
right,
in our own country. So if we donate $1 billion to Israel, we'll protect you and you won't get blown up.
Yeah, which it hasn't been successful, obviously, because we have Islamic attacks all over the place.
Do we? When was our last one?
9/11, but then the
That was
shootings.
so long
Okay,
ago.
I'm just saying though.
Oh yeah,
the strategy doesn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, embassies blown up in Beirut.
So basically, we're going to be BFFs with Israel because we don't like the rest of these Islamic countries because they do these mean things to us. So that's why we're going to BFF it up with Israel.
I guess. I mean, simplistic, yeah.
Simplistic terms.
And also, they use it as their democracy amongst all these these nation states that are basically theocracies run by the religions.
Off topic,
Yep.
but Qatar. Tucker Carlson, they call him Tucker Qatarlson. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
I don't know why, but I actually just saw his speech for the AmFest at TPUSA, and he was kind of hyping up Qatar, but a lot of the pro-Israel people don't like Qatar. What's going on with that? Can you explain that?
Donald Trump is hyping up Qatar.
Do you like Qatar?
I think they're supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood. No, I do not like them.
That's a personal belief, though. Right?
Personal belief.
But what's their reasoning for liking Qatar?
Money.
Money? Like they're giving us money?
Yeah. I mean, Trump had them here. They're going to invest all kinds of money in the country.
Saudi Arabia?
All of them. A lot of them. Okay. Yeah. Qatar was one of them.
Gotcha.
Money.
Oh, and then
investment.
They gave him that plane, right?
Oh, yeah. The Air Force 2 or whatever. New Air Force 1.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that was a mistake on Trump's part to accept, not because what the Democrats said he was being bought off. It's like, just stay away from us.
Stay peaceful, but yeah. I mean, I think it's cool if we get money from anyone, but I don't know. We'll do another episode on Islam, because I've never understood all of that. And I mean, I know if you read their Bible or whatever they call it.
The Quran.
Yes, the Quran. I feel like it's good to understand that because there's also a lot of people talking about the Islamification of America. So why is that so dangerous? Coming soon to a theater near you guys. Anyways, basically, you guys, this argument, it seems like there's so many different sides to it. This shit isn't going to change. We're always going to be donating money to Israel. And I don't want to, but I don't want the Gavin Newsoms and the Joe Bidens to win because they're going to continue giving money to Israel as well, whether they say they're going to or not, because it's just how it always works. And we have been for so many years. So I'm just going to vote on the policies that I actually know can fluctuate. And this policy won't fluctuate, in my opinion. When was the last time we did not give money to Israel?
Probably not in my lifetime. I don't know.
So there you go. So you can have your drastic opinions about Israel, but we're not going to stop giving money to them. We never have, and we never will. And I don't agree with that. I don't want to give them my money, but it's one of those things you just don't have control of it. You never will. Your vote could control it, but if you vote for Gavin Newsom or if you vote for J.D. Vance, you're going to be getting the same thing. One might say they're not going to give money to Israel, but they will. We never have stopped giving money to Israel. So this is just a complex topic is what I'm getting from this right now. So
it's even complex within the Catholic Church.
Let's get into that because from what I understand, there's a lot of Catholics that don't like Jews as well. Why is that? And what's your stance on it? Because you're a traditional Catholic.
Okay, so there's a species of Catholics that tend to be traditional Catholics that almost feel this need to dislike or hate Jews.
Because Jews killed Christ? Is that why? Is that?
That's where it originates from, but it's more than that.
It's like we all hold this grudge against the Jews.
Right, but if you go back after the time of
Even though
Christ,
it wasn't them that physically did it, it was their ancestors from
right.
thousands of years ago.
Well, a couple things though. If you go back,
I don't hold that grudge, by the way, but
so let me go back real brief with a different strain of history with
Mhm.
the Catholics. The early church fathers, I'm going to pick St. Augustine, doctor of the church. So when the Jews are mass exodus and flee the Roman Empire and tearing down the temple, and there's mass death and chaos, and they set out these diasporas throughout the region.
yeah.
Okay. St. Augustine, he says basically, he gets a little bit twisted. He says they deserve to be in those diasporas. They deserve to stay out of certain industries, not because we should enforce it and make them do that. It's just God's will as their punishment that they end up in this situation.
On another note, you can be anti-Semitic and still become a saint? What?
Well, he's not anti-Semitic, though. Okay.
Well,
Basically, what he's saying is they made their bed, now they're laying it. Okay. We're not going to enforce them. We're not going to kill them. We're not going to hate them. But this is what they've done to themselves. It's almost providential. Nothing to do with man, nothing to do with Catholic Church. This is what happened to them.
Live with their
They need to live with the
grievances.
consequences.
Yeah.
So people took that as, oh, Augustine said they deserve, and therefore we need to enforce what they deserve because God would want us to.
And take it thousands of years later.
Exactly. And then you also have Thomas Aquinas, who said, another doctor of the church, don't harm the Jews, don't kill the Jews, don't hate the Jews, but don't let them in this industry, don't let them in that industry. But the thing is, people gravitate to those statements, but they didn't realize these were all Christian or Catholic countries. And guess what? Mm-hmm. If you were a pagan or a druid or something in a Catholic country, they would have said the same thing. Don't let them in this industry. Don't let them in that industry. We'll tolerate them. So, but they gravitate to, oh, they're talking about the Jews and the Jews only. No, they were talking about anybody who wasn't Catholic. Okay. And then you get in the church prayers in the old Roman Rite, there's a prayer on Good Friday that prays for the perfidious Jews. The word perfidious today means treacherous, evil. That's the meaning of the word today. In Latin, during the time of the prayer when it was written, means unbeliever in Christ and faithless. So people the last couple hundred years thinking the church is calling the Jews perfidious. They are evil. They are treacherous. They should be treated second class. We're supposed to hate them. If they knew the Greek meaning of the word and the Latin meaning of the Greek root of the word, perfidious means unbeliever.
It's still bad, though. Like, it's still not like a nice term.
It's not a nice term, but it's not evil and treacherous. Let's face it, the hook nose and the money grubber Shylock that Shakespeare writes about, it's not that. They're praying for the unbelievers, and they're specifying the Jews because the Jews were the chosen people. Okay? And also, they take that and think we're supposed to hate the Jews and dislike them. Even the church has got it in their prayers. How could we not dislike the Jews?
Yeah.
No. Well, a couple things about that is when Jesus is dying on the cross, what does he do? He says about the Jews, the people killing him, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So, and also, leapfrog, and if you look at the trad Catholics, Pius V in the Council of Trent is very much high up for them. Mm-hmm. And I agree with them. But in part of the writings in the Council of Trent, they rely on St. Paul's teaching. Well, St. Paul says that, and he talks about the Jews and the Christians.
Okay.
And about Christ being put to death. St. Paul actually puts more guilt on the Catholics or the Christians. He says, kind of like what Christ says, they harmed Christ but not knowing that he was Christ. And I'm paraphrasing him. And he talks to the Christians and saying, it is your sins who laid the violent hands on Christ and killed him.
Okay.
So if I take that and I take the words of Christ and I understand what the word perfidious means in Latin and Greek, no, I'm not supposed to hate the Jews. It's silly. Matter of fact, think of the Holy Mass every Sunday. Mm-hmm. Think how much we're tied to the Jews. When the priest comes out and the music starts, we all stand up, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? When Moses came out of the tent, the people stood up and the music started. Okay? Mm-hmm. When the sacrifices, we bring the gifts to the altar, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, the Jews would bring the lamb to the altar, and the priest would slaughter the lamb.
Yeah. Okay,
and he'd basically drain the blood out of the lamb right here, kind of where Christ, the spear went into Christ. Everything is tied to the Jews. I'm supposed to hate the Jews? Did you ever look at a tabernacle in the church?
Yeah.
Make it about 200 times bigger. What do you think it looks like? A Jewish temple.
Oh.
Okay, it's a Jewish temple. If you're by the priest and he opens the tabernacle, what's there? A veil. In the Jewish temple, you would go into the back room of the temple,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a veil, and only the priest could go behind the veil once a year. That's where God was, the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
Well, in the tabernacle, that miniature temple, the priest every Sunday opens it up, he
Mm-hmm.
pulls the veil back, and there's the Eucharist. There's God.
Yeah.
The difference is when Jesus died in the temple, the veil was torn from the top to the bottom, meaning God was coming to man. So the priest can go there and bring God out to us.
Okay.
Okay. In a way, I kind of feel bad for the Protestants. They don't have the tie, the beauty of the Mass. And I'm not bad mouthing the Protestants. I'm just saying we have so much symbolic things in our Mass, and all of it is tied to the Jews. The number of candles, 6 was the evil number. We have 7 candles. Jesus perfected it. Okay. He's the 7th candle. Everything relates back to the Jewish priests and how they conduct it. You never see the priest when he puts his hands over the gifts like this on the altar
Yeah.
okay, well, that's from the Jewish priest calling God down over the sacrifice. Everything is mimicked from the Jews.
Okay.
So for all these Catholics that say we need to hate the Jews, I guess we should hate ourselves too, because we're kind of tied into what the Jews were doing all this time.
What's the main difference? Tell people who don't know, what's the main difference between Catholics and Jews?
Christ.
Yeah.
Their Bible ends at the Old Testament.
And we have the
New Testament.
Okay.
Jesus is the new Israel. It's
Yeah.
the New Testament. So without the Old Testament, there is no New Testament. So without the Jews, there is no Catholics.
That's
But I can have a whole different attitude about the nation of Israel.
Okay,
And
so-
secular Jews that promote a lot of crap.
Okay, so talk about that. Yeah, talk about
just
that.
take a look at Hollywood. It's been heavily influenced by Jews.
So the secular Jews are Jews that aren't really that religious.
They're not really religious.
Like,
they're just cultural
They're not
Jews.
going to church, or maybe they are, but
Right.
like they're not practicing their faith.
Right, exactly. So when I hear that we should, not trust the Jews, or we should hate the Jews, who are you talking about? Because you could say that about any group of people.
Yeah.
You could say there's good Catholics, there's bad Catholics. There's good Protestants, there's bad Protestants.
We all know a few of them too.
I mean, you could say the government of Iran is evil. Does that make the Iranian people, the Persian people bad? No, actually, prior to the Ayatollahs, Persia was a friend of ours, or Iran is now. It's now Iran. So, this hatred of the Jews that, have the more traditional Catholics is kind of bad theology. Because when Jesus says, forgive them for they know not what they do, and St. Paul says we're more guilty than the Jews, then we should hate ourselves.
Yeah. So you're actually kind of bringing up my next topic here. And I'm going to about where I personally start to develop an opinion on things. What's going on in today's current culture is really bothering me. As I mentioned, the last year and a half, ever since October 7th, 2023, it feels like actual anti-Semitism is literally everywhere. Not the anti-Semitism that questions Israel. It's so hard to talk about this topic because if you insult Israel's government, you're an anti-Semite.
Exactly. That's
and
crazy.
I think it's complete and utter BS. Like,
Yes.
Tucker Carlson is very outspoken about Israel.
Yep.
And I don't think he's an anti-Semite.
No, I don't either.
I think Candace Owens is an anti-Semite, personally.
Yeah. And I don't follow her enough.
Actually, I don't know if I would call her an anti-Semite. I just know she blames the Jews for things where I'm just like, come on, not everything's their fault. Nick Fuentes might be an anti-Semite.
I think he is.
Want to know what bothers me so much about him is like sometimes he makes like such good points, and like people get so upset about him because they're like, oh, he's such a bad look for the conservative party. But I'm like, yeah, it's not cool to be an anti-Semite, but like not everyone's perfect, right? Like there's so many people in the conservative party where I'm just
I agree, but isn't that typical with everybody? All these media figures. Well, I like Tucker Carlson. Is he right all the time? Absolutely not. I like Megyn Kelly. Is she right? No. Is she right a lot? Yeah. Why do people feel they have to pick a person and then hang on that person no matter what?
Fuentes makes anti-Semitism a part of his personality, and it's like what brought him popular. So I sent you that thing with Alex Jones the other day. Like it was him and Alex Jones. They were talking about the Candace Owens thing. They were talking about the Israel thing, about her blaming the Jews. And Nick Fuentes literally said, you know me, I'll blame the Jews for everything. About 60% of the things I say, I blame the Jews. I'm paraphrasing,
But you know what, though? That sells.
he
It
makes
sells.
it like a part of his personality. It's
Legit.
not funny. What pisses me off is like he makes really good points sometimes, and I'm just like, you're kind of a crappy person because like you're clearly an anti-Semite, but like you also make really
But
good points.
you know who else makes good points? Morning Joe and Mika. 1 out of 100 points might be half true sometimes. So even they can get it right
I
once in a
guess you're
while.
right. Okay, like
But my point is, I think people just need to do their own homework. And you can like Tucker on this issue and not
yeah.
on that issue. You can like Fuentes on this issue. Why is there a litmus test from like Ben
Yeah, you're
Shapiro or
right.
Mark
Like these
Levine?
are media figures. Like we don't have to
Yeah.
go to them for everything. Like
You know who you want to hang your hat on? Hang it on Christ.
yeah, that's
Don't,
so
that,
true.
the hanging on these people is pathetic. And to watch people
But I
argue
like all
about it,
these people.
I know,
Yeah.
but watch people argue in the media about it, it's like, is your identity tied to that person? Is your knowledge only from that person?
No, but want to know what the sad thing is so many people's are.
That is sad.
Because like so many people will go to one person.
And I'll go back to my original thing. I always
Pray a
say,
rosary. Yeah, I
pray
get
a
it.
rosary, read scripture, understand the tie between the Old and the New Testament.
Yeah.
Understand that Isaac on the altar was basically Jesus on the altar, and it's pointing to things. No, we're going to say Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Mark Levin. No, you know what? They're all human, and they're all men, and they're all women, and they're right sometimes, and they're wrong.
I know who was always right though, for real. Charlie Kirk. He was almost always
You
right
know,
about
it's
everything.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
He really was. I
Like
mean,
that's why his
that's why they killed him.
that's why I hate talking. Like that's why like
He was incredible.
he was never wrong about anything. Never.
I can't think. I mean, he
like
was
you see these clips of him and people are like, "Oh, he's racist." But like they're taking the clips
the
of
clip.
him
They're
like
pulling it right.
yeah.
A
But,
thread.
like he was always right about everything.
I mean,
it's
and I will
amazing.
say, I'm sure there's something. You know,
I'm not.
but
No
I know
one's
what you're saying.
perfect, but like he was pretty spot on about everything. It was pretty crazy.
You know what it comes down to, I think, though? Everyone's pointing the finger at this media figure,
I
that
know.
podcaster, or Charlie Kirk, or Donald Trump. How about this? How about taking some self-responsibility, read a book once in a while, find out the history of things and the philosophy of things and and what you believe in, and then come to your own conclusion and say, you know what? I like all of them and I dislike all of them.
Or listen to a girl and your dad.
Or listen to a girl and your dad. Yeah,
Or listen to a girl
exactly.
and your dad,
And you know what? And the history I gave of Israel, I probably left out 1,000 things because I did it in 2 minutes.
So read the
Tell me
book.
we're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Anyways, the real anti-Semitism is becoming more visible, not the fake anti-Semitism, as I said, for questioning the government of Israel, because that's not being anti-Semitic.
No.
That's questioning a foreign
Government
government.
policy.
Yeah. So like people accuse curious people who ask questions on the Israeli government. They accuse them of anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitism actually is where you hate Jews just because they're Jewish, or there's an issue going on in the world and you just blame the Jews because they're the most convenient group to hate.
They always have been for 2,000 years.
But it's so bad though lately, and maybe it's more bad because of social media. For the record here, I'm just a person and I don't like hating anyone, so that's why it pisses me off. But targeting people just because they're Jewish is a wild take to me. But I looked this up though before this episode because I just wanted to understand what's actually happening here. Like, I can read the temperature from social media and everything, but I looked up some stats, and roughly 70% of religion-based hate crimes in the US today have targeted Jewish people, even though they only make up 2% of the US population. And in 2024 alone, there were over 1,900 reported anti-Jewish hate crimes. And I guess that's the highest ever recorded in the US, by the way. And on college campuses, hundreds of incidents have already been tracked this year, and surveys show that over half of Jewish Americans have faced anti-Semitism in the past year, like harassments, threats, or feeling unsafe. And about a third say it's becoming a part of their daily life, which is really sad. America's targeting Jews for whatever reason. So I just want to know what's going on. And as I mentioned, I'm very kind of neutral on the Israeli government. I'm suspicious, and they're probably corrupt, just like our government's corrupt. So I see both anti and pro reasoning. Like, I can understand why the Protestants, you know, it's religious to them. Like, they don't want Israel going away because it's the Holy Land. And I don't want Israel going away because there's a lot of history there, and
Absolutely.
Christ was from there. And
right.
I don't want to see them go away. But just because you dislike a country you shouldn't turn your hatred to an entire group. So I just think that's insane. So why is this a thing? Why are we hating a group because we don't like a country?
Because the bottom line is, the why do they hate the people? Because of the country? Take the country away. For 2,000 years before Israel came back to the map, they still hated the people. So that's been going on for 2,000 years for whatever, all the reasons we talked about. Now you just bring the government, you bring the country, the nation state of Israel back to the map. After
Okay.
2,000 years of being away, nothing's going to change. If anything, it's going to get worse now. Okay?
Yeah.
They were already hated and victimized throughout the Middle Ages, throughout the ancient times, and all their diasporas throughout the world. So nothing's going to change. If anything, it'll get worse because now you brought the nation state back, who was forced upon the people of the Middle East. That's even another reason. Put that on the pile of the reasons that the Jews are hated.
Okay.
So it just builds.
I feel bad for them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the Jewish people throughout the world. I don't feel bad for the Jewish government. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. No,
And I know
don't
I got
feel
to
bad for the
distinguish
government.
between that.
Yes, you do have to distinguish between that because I think that's the problem these days. Is people target Jews because people don't distinguish between the Jewish people and the Jewish government.
And also the secular Jews, who
Yes.
and it's an opinion only, and I'll share it.
Yeah.
I think the influence in Hollywood has helped destroy the moral fiber of this country. But that does not mean that I see a Jew in Southfield or the Hasidic Jew in New York and say, oh, there's a loser. We should hate that person.
No, I would treat them just like I treat anyone else.
I mean, that's silly and it's against our faith.
Anyways, good points here. So I think the Israel issue is clearly not partisan, like we've been talking about, but it's tearing movements apart right now. I personally believe that one of the big reasons that Kamala Harris didn't win, among the joke of 4 years of administration that they had before that, but I think one of the reasons was the Israel-Palestine thing. There were so many events that she had where you had pro-Palestine protesters going in there, and that is when I started to get the gut feeling there's no way she wins because those people are crazy about the pro-Palestine, pro-Israel, or anti-Israel. The same thing within 2020 with the George Floyd. I got the same feeling. I was like, there's no way Donald Trump wins, even though I know you believe that there is some corruption in that election, which there probably was. But like, I had a feeling because of the temperature of the protests that he wasn't going to win and they weren't going to let him win.
Right.
So I also had this same feeling about Kamala Harris. Again, among the other things that they pulled off the 4 years before that. But anyways, it's dominating elections these days. And there's so many wars going on. I mean, Donald Trump just ended 6 wars. Why is this the war that gets people so much more emotional than any other war?
Talking about the Israel-Gaza?
Yes.
Okay, so once again, Israel is the political boogeyman in the Middle East.
And another thing is when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, 2023, I understand why Israel hit back. They had to defend themselves, right? I don't know if you agree with that.
No, of course they did.
Yeah,
of course
they had to defend themselves. But then I know that they kind of went extreme there. But like,
yes.
I think another reason it made like my age group so mad is it's on social media. You see, and again, it's heartbreaking for me to see. Like, I don't want to see children.
No, it was horrible.
Killed. Like, it's awful.
What they did was horrible and almost bordering on war crimes.
But Israel, though, had to initial time, right? I don't know.
Yes, but
I don't know anything about this. I'm very neutral, you guys. I'm just trying to understand. If my neighbor came to shoot up my house and kill my kids, I'm going to go shoot up their house to defend myself, right?
Yes.
I don't want to do that by any means, you guys, but you know what I'm saying?
No.
And that's what Israel did to Gaza, right? I don't know anything about this.
They beat them to a pulp. They literally beat them to a pulp.
Oh, can you explain that, though?
I mean, okay, possible war crimes. Okay, so there was a American who went on a mission that was government-sponsored NGO to basically set up food relief centers in Gaza. But they were placed where Israel allowed them to be. Well, for the people to get to these relief centers, they had to pass through the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, in basically war zones. So basically, it was almost like, well, here's some food over here. We're going to let it be over here. But in order to get over here, you got to cross this only one path to get there. And by the way, that path you're coming through is part of the war zone. And if we see anybody, we're going to kill them because we're going to assume they're the Hamas fighters. Yeah. The former U.S. military person, I can't think of his name, basically did it for about a week and said, I'm out. This is a war crime, what they're doing.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so do they have a right to defend themselves and answer back? Yes.
Yeah, but up to a point.
Yeah. They pounded them
Okay.
mercilessly.
Okay. I didn't know that. And I never know what to believe anymore because you see so much crap on social media.
And the person I saw on media could have been lying about that.
Right.
That's the problem.
I know. Yeah.
That's why do your own homework, read
Yeah.
your own books, educate yourself, and come up with your own narrative.
Yeah. So this will bring me, I think that this is going to fracture the conservative movement for our upcoming elections, whether it's midterms, along with some other things going on. But I think that this and then the Charlie Kirk thing is going to be the two main issues, in my opinion, that fracture our future upcoming elections here. Is there a way for the conservatives to disagree about Israel without turning each other into all-out enemies? And what principles should actually guide disagreement on something this complex without actually destroying trust or unity? And here's my statement I want to make, because let me say this: Tucker Carlson, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, and all of you, I like all of them individually. You're all entitled to your own opinions, Israel, anti-Israel, whatever you want. But from the perspective of younger voters, especially younger voters, this constant public infighting about Israel, it doesn't make the Republican Party look good. It makes us look divided and distracted and honestly out of touch. It's not about who's right on Israel, in my opinion. It's about political reality. And for a lot of people my age, which will be a majority of the future voters, by the way, and will be raising children who are future voters in this country. So you better think about that. That's very important. Israel's not even, at least for me, I can say Israel's not a top issue of my vote. I don't even think about it, sadly. I mean, hate me for that, but I just don't. What is on my voter card is seeing less identity politics in this country, affordability, taxes, and all of that stuff. Call me selfish. It's not anything that affects me personally. And I think a lot of young people also feel the same way, or they're really emotionally engaged in this, which I understand that side too. But you guys fighting about it so much at the top, it's not a good look, and we can't relate to you, and we're not going to vote how you tell us to because of it. And I'd say this: you don't need argument, you need discipline and maturity. And if I were a strategist, I would tell you to all get in a room and say, we're never going to agree on this. However, we have other values within this movement. We need to continue bringing people towards, like, let's tell people we don't agree on it, and like, let's tell people it's never going to change, and let's move forward and fight on the values that we can change. Because if you don't do this, the prolonged division is going to cost elections, and just take some notes from that and change your game entirely, because it's not going to work. And if Democrats regain power again, it won't be because of their messaging or their policies, because their policies frickin' suck. They don't work, and we all learn that. However, it'll be because the most influential people in our party are too busy fighting amongst each other about Israel, which again is something that will never change within the government. So you're going to let another party come in because you guys are too selfish and prideful to let go of your own disagreements. So figure it out and buckle up. But how do we fix this, Dad?
Well, real quick on what you just said. You're concerned about the economy, buying a house, jobs. At the end of the day, I don't think the Israel question will cost the election.
I do.
I know you do. I don't, because whether you're young, worried about the economy, or whether you're my age, worried about, well, what is Social Security going to look
Want
like?
to know why?
What is Medicare going to look like? No one's going to say, well, I'm going to lose my Medicare Social Security benefits there, but Israel's going to get their money. I got to vote for this candidate.
But so that's where I come in, though. We're not hearing about it because Tucker Carlson, and because Ben Shapiro, and because Candace Owens and Mark Levin, all they're talking about is Israel. They don't talk about the economy. I mean, they do, but that's what they're known for right now. Like, that's not what you want to be known for, is
No.
being Israel or anti-Israel. Like, that's what the main leaders of our party are known for. So if I'm someone who's brand new to politics and I know nothing, and I'm a young person, and I'm looking at which party to go to, I mean, hopefully I wouldn't go to the Democrat side, but like, Republicans don't look that attractive. They're just sitting there arguing about Israel all day. Why don't you guys argue about some topics that will actually change my life? Again, not to sound selfish, but like, that's why people vote. We want to make a difference in our life. So it's out of touch and it's not working. I think what they're doing and they're fighting, it all comes down to pride. It's like they want to win the argument, but it's like, you're going to cost a whole party, because When you're that privileged and you have that big of an audience, you should be responsible enough to realize you're going to lose some arguments and shouldn't let one argument be an entire brand, because that's what they've all done. Ever since Donald Trump has won the election, they've all made this their entire brand, being Israel or anti-Israel. And I just think it's dumb, and I think they should let go of their pride, and they're going to cost themselves in the future because of it.
You know what? I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's about pride. I can't be wrong. I got a following. I must.
Yeah.
What is wrong with
Like,
somebody
that
saying?
issue can be important to you, but like, it
But
doesn't need to cost us an
but
election.
where's the humility for any of these people
Yeah.
to say, you know what? I've thought about this issue, and I'm probably wrong about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I don't need to change my mind, but I need to study it more and look into it
Yeah.
and see if I can come up with a better idea. None of them can do it. None of them.
Or tell your audience, again, this has been a thing that's been going on for 3,000 years. This shit isn't going to change. So let's not vote based on who's Israel or anti-Israel. If there's a Republican Party or candidate who's Israel or anti-Israel or in the middle about it, like, don't let your vote change that. And don't go vote for Gavin Newsom, who's going to lie and say that he's not going to donate money to Israel, because he very well will, because we always have. So just leave the pride somewhere else.
No.
That's what I feel.
No, I mean,
They're ruining an entire party over it, so it pisses me off. It's like we get into power and then all of a sudden we're just gonna fight over shit that doesn't matter and isn't gonna change. So
welcome to politics. Welcome to the money game and power and narratives, and I've got to be right.
all right. So I think what you guys can gather from this episode is this is such a complex topic, and I don't think it should impact your vote. That's just my thing.
And I apologize for being forced to give an incomplete history.
Okay, that's all we wanted to explore today.
Think for yourself, do your own research, and read a book.
Yeah. There we go. That's why this is such an overwhelming topic, because it actually is overwhelming. So if you have any questions on this topic, email us at agirlandherdadpod@gmail.com. That is agirlandherdadpod@gmail.com. We'll always get back to you. If you're still learning, that's okay. I still am every single day. If you feel pressured to pick a side before you understand the issue, you're not alone, and you don't have to. Thank you again for listening in. This episode helped you think more clearly. Download it, share it with someone who's been confused or afraid to ask these questions out loud. Subscribe and follow us for more content, and drop us a comment, leave us a rating. We appreciate it more than you know. Follow us on socials, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and X. We'll see you next week.
Over and out from Solo Studios.